Hello and welcome to another making of a Bubblegum Monster. At our Friday live making a Bubblegum Monster, I made the Demogorgon from Stranger Things. So let's have a look at how I went about completing this character in a time lapse.
For this, I decided to start with something called Z-spheres. I've used them before, but usually I start from just a basic sphere. But Z-spheres are quite good because they're like creating a armature in the computer. Now, if you don't know what an armature is, it's like a wire, if you imagine like wire metal coat hanger kind of stuff, where you can just create the shape of like a human out of wire. And that's kind of what we're doing in the computer, but without the in the old days you'd then put clay on it, but obviously you're not putting clay on this one because well, it would be messy and also probably break your computer. So it's best not to do that and just stick with using the Z-spheres in ZBrush. So here I'm doing the hands, the fingers, which I, to be honest, never like doing because, well, there's 10 of them. Most people got 10 fingers, and it always takes a long time to do that. It's always a bit fiddly. But anyway, there you go. So now I've added would be the kind of clay where you just got a kind of basic shape over the Z-spheres. And it looks quite strange, like a sort of alien gorilla of some kind, but it gives me a good idea and a good sense of the proportions and where I need to go from here. So now using a brush which is called a clay build-up brush, which pretty much does what it says. It sort of adds virtual clay, and using that with a combination of that and a move tool, I can start bulking out the shapes and just really just concentrating on the silhouette of the actual character, looking at how everything lines up together, so where the hands are in relation to the knees, where the face is in relation to the body. I'm adding a little bit more detail because this is the Demogorgon. The reference I had was with the mouth closed, but after talking to everyone on online, we decided to go with the mouth open because it's more interesting because we can see all of his teeth and he looks a lot more sort of dramatic that way. So I opened up the face and I'm not going with any of the details. I just wanted to get roughly the shape, just to get an idea of how that sits with the rest of the body. And I think I just sort of kind of dug in around the edges a little bit here. I didn't really bother too much with looking at, like I say, the teeth or things like that. But it gave me a rough idea of what he would look like. And here I'm sort of adding some clavicle bones, which are collarbones if you don't know what clavicle is. And also you probably notice I'll probably start adding in some of the other joints. It's always worth for when you're creating a character to look at the foundation of the character. And what I mean by that is the skeleton. If you can get where the main core parts, the bony parts of a character, where they stick out, is a key to sort of like creating the structure correctly. So things like the clavicle bones, the elbow, the wrists, the knees, the ankles, any bone that sticks out. If you can add that in, it's a good landmark to then the rest of the character. That being said, if you do have a bone sticking out of your back or the middle of your leg, that's probably not normal, and I would go to the doctors. But all these sort of main normal bone sticking out bits are good to get in early on, so you can build from that as a foundation. So here, like you can see, I'm building the pelvic bone out a little bit, so I can know then where the leg muscles will sort of attach. And also it's good to then know where the pelvic bone sits alongside with the arms. With a normal sort of human, there's certain rules to sort of where the hands will be just touching just above the knees kind of thing and things like that. But obviously with this character, he's not that normal really. Not many people got flower-faced heads and giant hands, so kind of the normal rules didn't so much apply, but it's always good to know the rules so that you can break them. Here I'm doing just a rough out of the toes. He's got some really strange feet. I mean, that being said, it's not like the rest of him's normal, but his toes, he just got these like two main sort of long protruding front toes, and then these really weird abnormal kind of growths down the side of his feet, which I think I do in a minute. I don't do quite yet. So that was our live stream, that's where we got to, and now I'm adding in a little bit more detail around the mouth. I think I decided to change the flower head a bit because I think the reference we were using was maybe from an earlier version, and I noticed that it wasn't quite right. The flower head bits weren't big enough. And I then decided to move the neck out a little bit because I wanted to start getting him into a more of an interesting pose. Now, I didn't pose him properly yet because I wanted to work in a symmetrical way, which means that when I was doing one side, the computer would do the rest of it, and both sides are the same at the moment. So when I move one finger on the left, the right finger will move, and it just means you can work quicker. But once I've finished all the main details, I will then pose it up where I'll move a leg back and a leg forward, and so then it becomes asymmetrical, which means then you have to do everything individually because the computer doesn't know where one side is compared to the other. But at the moment I'm just sticking with symmetrical stuff, so I'm adjusting his hands here because he has got these abnormally long fingers, which for a monster is great because obviously, you know, you're halfway there to scaring people. When you show them your hands, they're going to be freaked out. And also, I don't know, it could be quite useful having long hands, maybe, long fingers. I can't think of any uses off the top of my head, except for maybe picking your nose, maybe. It's good. You don't even have to lift your arm, just lift a finger. But yeah, if you can think of any good ways to use long hands, comment below. Here I'm posing the fingers, also thickening them up a little bit because they were a little bit too thin. What you can see is where the dark areas are is a mask, which means that they won't get affected, and all the light pinky areas are where I'm applying whatever I'm doing, thickening the fingers here. It's just a good way of, because fingers are quite close together, it means that you can adjust one finger without the others being affected. And here I'm creating some scary fingernails, because all monsters need scary fingernails. You don't want to have these perfect manicured fingers on a monster, because that'd be ironically quite weird and creepy. Here I'm doing the ankles. Again, one of the main sort of bone structures, so you know kind of where then everything else can extend from that. And just tidying up the toes a little bit, making sure they're appropriately scary. And this is, like I was mentioning earlier, these are the sort of weird side toes, which actually, if you've ever seen War of the Worlds, Steven Spielberg one, the aliens in that have got very similar sort of feet, hand type things. And I was looking at the company that made this creature, and I think they did that creature from War of the Worlds as well, which is probably why there's similarities there. So here's the other side to his other weird sort of toe finger thing that's come off the side. You have quite a hard time finding some shoes that fit. Here, the toenails, again, scary toenails for a monster. Just sort of extending them out, making them a bit creepy. And here I'm tidying up the legs, and just trying to sort of get the main muscle groups in. Again, looking at the pelvic bones and how the muscles extend off of them is really useful. So they go from the pelvic bone down to the knee. So that's what I'm kind of doing there. What am I? Oh, that was it. There was a load of video missing actually because it accidentally got deleted. But here, basically, you can just sort of see where I've added the teeth and the finer details in this turntable. So hopefully it gives you a better idea of where I went with it. And here's the render. So on the left is a wireframe, and the middle is one with just a plain colour, and on the right is the rendered bubblegum look.
So there you go, that's one bubblegum Demogorgon from Stranger Things. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope there's a few bits and pieces you picked up from there for tips and tricks, and you could then apply them to your own sculpts. And remember, you can use a package called Sculptress, which is from Pixologic, which is completely free for the Mac and PC. Or if you have got a bit of money, you can actually invest in Zbrush, which is also from Pixologic. And also, if there is a piece of artwork that you are particularly proud of, send it over to us via an email with gallery in the title. And if you're lucky, we may feature it in our gallery videos that we do every other Monday. Until then, bye for now.